Welcome to the Maztech FCS Quickstart Guide. This guide provides a brief overview of the most essential installation steps and FCS menus and functions. This guide will take you from your first unboxing to a zeroed X4-FCS rifle system. After unboxing, the first items you should locate are the included 18650 rechargeable batteries. Plug these into a compatible USB connection to fully charge, which will be indicated by the small red LED on the positive end of each battery. The light will blink while charging and remain solid when fully charged. Once fully charged, the batteries can be installed into the FCS unit. To do this, first unscrew the battery compartment caps at the rear of the FCS, then insert the batteries as indicated on the side of the unit. Now you should be able to look into the screen of the FCS system and see a battery selection screen. Choose the correct battery option based on the batteries you just installed. The menu should then transition to the main HUD. The next step is to calibrate the compass. To calibrate the compass, first locate the indicator where the compass should be. Depending on the system's calibration stage, it will read 0 out of 3, 1 out of 3, or 2 out of 3. To completely calibrate the compass, turn the system straight up for approximately 2 seconds, then straight down for approximately 2 seconds. Now orient the system to be level with the ground and rotate it in place a full 360 degrees. The compass system will not show 3 out of 3 when complete, but rather it will now display a compass heading in degrees. Now it's time to install your LPVO. Use the provided T15 Torx tool to remove the scope rings from the FCS, and then place your scope in the bottom rings and push it forward until the front of your optic sits firmly up against the FCS housing where the screen is located. If you expect to be in a maritime or other very wet environment, you can leave a small gap here to prevent water from collecting in the space between the screen and the front lens element. Now place the top scope rings back onto the FCS and install the Torx screws loosely back into the mounting holes while allowing the LPVO to still rotate in the housing. Now we can level the LPVO to the FCS internal reticle. While looking into your LPVO and FCS, press and hold the menu button on the left side of the FCS. The radial menu should appear, and from here you will use the FCS scroll wheel to navigate to and select the display menu in the lower right portion of the menu. Once in this menu, choose the alignment option. In the alignment mode, you will see a crosshair consisting of 2 lines that cross in the center and a circle around the center point. Use the scroll wheel to align the center of the digital crosshair with that of your physical reticle. The scroll wheel will adjust either left or right or up and down depending on the option you have selected by pressing the FCS menu button to alternate between the two. At this point, you will also need to rotate your scope in the scope rings to level the physical reticle to the digital reticle in the FCS screen. Once alignment has been achieved, carefully hand-tighten the scope ring screws until the scope can no longer rotate. Take care to check the reticle alignment while tightening the screws to ensure that this does not move your scope out of alignment. Once your scope is leveled and the digital and physical reticles have been aligned and centered, click and hold the FCS menu button to save the alignment settings. Keep in mind that this only serves to level the LPVO at this time. You will still have to zero your optic and system later in the startup process. Now that your LPVO has been leveled, it is optional to remove each scope ring screw, apply a small amount of Loctite, reinsert and properly torque each screw. This should be done 1 screw at a time, so as not to allow the scope to rotate now that it is leveled in the scope rings. Once an individual screw is removed, apply a small amount of 242 Loctite and replace it in the scope ring, tightening it to 15 to 18 inch-pounds. Once complete, move on to the next screw and repeat this process until all of the scope ring screws have had Loctite applied and been properly torqued. Your scope and FCS are now ready to mount to your weapon of choice. To mount the X4 system on a weapon, first loosen the rail bolts on the left side of the X4-FCS, and then place the FCS onto the top rail of your firearm in the desired position. Be sure to double-check the placement by looking through the scope to check the eye box position of your optic. When satisfied with the system placement, use a 1/2 inch wrench to tighten down the rail bolts to a maximum of 77 inch-pounds. If you do not have a torque wrench, Turn the bolts 1/4 of a turn past hand tight. This completes the installation of the LPVO and FCS on your firearm. You are now ready to go to the range and zero your firearm with your FCS and optic installed. Before beginning the zero process, it is recommended to set up your weapon and ammo profiles for your specific weapon and ammo. This can be done with your smartphone using the Maztech companion app available on the Apple App Store or Google Play Store. In that case, you will have access to the Applied Ballistics extensive online library. Or you can enter ballistic profiles manually via the FCS menu as follows. The weapon profile can be accessed in the top right area of the radial menu. Here, you can select a default weapon profile from the menu, edit the profile order, or create your own weapon profile by selecting Create Profile. When editing a weapon profile, you can adjust each parameter individually according to your specific setup and capture the environmental parameters from when you zero the weapon. It is most effective to zero the weapon to the physical reticle first at your preferred range, and then double-check that your digital reticle is aligned with the physical reticle after zeroing. The Ammo Profiles menu is located on the right side of the main menu. This menu works just like the Weapon Profiles menu, letting you select, reorder, or create a new profile for your ammo. Within each ammo profile, you may edit and save the parameters for your specific ammunition. Once you have chosen and saved your weapon and ammo profiles and zeroed your weapon properly, the final step is to return to the alignment menu and recenter your digital reticle so that it aligns with the physical reticle. It may help to zoom in with the LPVO while aligning the reticles to get the most accurate image. Once this is done, your X4-FCS equipped weapon should be ready to use. We will now go through the basic functions of the reticle and ranging functions of the FCS. When your range to target is set to the same range as your zero, the digital reticle should be aligned with your physical reticle. To change the distance, turn the scroll wheel to adjust the distance readout in 25-yard increments. A star will appear next to the range, which indicates that the selected distance has not been confirmed. To confirm, simply push the button on the scroll wheel to set the distance while aiming at your intended target. You will need to aim at your target when you confirm the distance, because the ballistic solver uses all the variables at that given moment to calculate the aim point, including pitch and cant of the weapon. This calculation will update the position of the digital reticle in your scope. Simply hold the tip of the digital reticle firmly on target and fire. This concludes the basics of the Maztech FCS system. For more detailed information, consult the included product manual or visit maztechindustries.com.